Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers. I'm talking about an interesting book, which you can see here, Neighbour Disputes. It's published by the Law Society and it's a new book by Kevin Kennedy. This is the actual book here. It's a small one, sort of paperback. Nice cover. It's got a CD at the back. It follows the normal Law Society approach at the beginning with the way in which it's actually set out. No paragraphs by the sides, but some very useful, well-written, clear information. And a couple of things that are interesting. Chapter 14, the last one, is Seeking Help, which is very interesting because it tells the layman what to do. And then after that, you've got a number of appendices, which are about the current legislation. Again, very interesting stuff about harassment and all the other issues concerning this particular, highly important area. It's important not just for barristers and people like myself in court. It's important also in law centres, and as counsellors we get, and I certainly had, a very large number of cases which involve disputes between neighbours, and we needed to know how to go about it. Obviously I had some experience as a lawyer, but many of my colleagues have no experience at all of this sort of thing. I've given it a review on the internet, and I've taken it from a well-known television programme, Everybody Needs Good Neighbours. You probably remember the song. The question, though, is actually posed at the beginning of my review. Good fences make good neighbours, said poet Robert Frost, airing the careless smugness with which neighbours sometimes either erect or tear down the barriers between them, causing the annoyance which leads to fury, which leads all too often, of course, to court action. So as the author Kevin Kennedy says, he's from Clark Wilmot Solicitors, this book covers the main areas where neighbours tend to come into dispute with each other. He adds that, as we all know, neighbour disputes are a feature of life, often becoming arguably of disproportionate importance in people's lives. I'm sure you're aware of that from the type of clients you get in these disputes. Such disputes, therefore, from boundary and easement disputes to planning issues, the whole range of those, nuisance and criminal offences, touch on a number of areas of law, all of which we are concentrated on, mainly, of course, in the civil jurisdiction. So if you're a practitioner faced with dealing with such disputes, many of them generating such passions as to make them appear virtually intractable, you'll find this book, Neighbour Disputes, a reassuring presence on your bookshelf, in my view. Not only is it a practical guide to the several areas of law involved, it offers practical advice in the conduct of cases themselves, a lot of common sense information in the book, and it gives appropriate procedures in relation to the most commonly occurring types of dispute. Having a little look at what's in the book, it offers guidance on resolving disputes where possible and obtaining redress, and it covers all the most common topics, including the approaches that you might take, or certainly which you might take, and bearing in mind what the courts think of a particular matter, in disputes covering the following. That's boundaries, party walls, access to neighbouring land, which is always an important area, easements, covenants, adverse possession, trespass, nuisance injunctions, planning permission, antisocial behaviour, which is relatively new for us in the legal profession anyway, by virtue of its terminology, and the conduct of litigation and alternative dispute resolution, because the book is obviously subtitled Law and Practice. As I've said before, this is a book for a wide range of people. Coming from the Law Society, it's obviously aimed at solicitors and lawyers, but it has a wider applicability to advisors, to lay clients, and to anybody with a problem. I certainly think it's relevant to counsellors. The law is as stated at the 1st of September last year, that's 2008, and included in the book are tables of cases, naturally, and the relevant statutes and statutory instruments. The appendices, which I mentioned before right at the back, include precedents and a useful bibliography which suggests further reading in such areas as boundaries and easements, covenants, injunctions, trespass and nuisance. Also, of course, party walls, rights to light, as well as the main elements of contentious litigation are also well covered. So the forms, the statements and the orders contained in the book are also useful, and they're accompanied also on the CD, which is actually at the back, this purple thing, and that's of course very useful because it saves a lot of time with typing. As Kevin Kennedy says, and I mentioned it earlier, neighbour disputes are a feature of life, part of modern life, with the types of dispute obviously in these days covering what we know as old style property differences in both public and private arenas. The book, I think, is an effective and handy guide to all the key dispute areas, and he clearly sets out what goes wrong with the concept that everyone needs good neighbours, and that's really why ADR is so important in this area, if you can get it. So the book and the CD are a great comfort in my view as well, in that this what is a troubled area of human relations, when disagreements arise in such close proximity with one another. So I'd like to thank Kevin for the book. I think it's a useful edition. You'll see on Google that there aren't that many books that are directly relevant in this area, but it's down to him and the Law Society. So thank you very much for the practical and clear advice. It's most useful. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.